Take in 3 deep breaths, breathing in the light and energy of that mantra. Visualize the light sort of percolating from the top of your head, like the crown chakra, and just percolating all through your brain, down through your brain and through your throat, into your shoulders, kind of like a net of light just streaming down throughout your body, illuminating all the nadis or the energy channels and clearing them, streaming all the way down to your toes. So welcome to satsang. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
The power of this gathering is not in the words, but the presence itself. That's the first thing to understand. You must be able to feel it, absorb it, become it. First you feel it, you sense it, like, oh, I feel lighter, I feel more buoyant, I feel more like wide, dispersed, kind of like air almost, you know? I feel more like energy rather than a body. And then after you feel it, if you feel it enough times, you become it. That's a huge leap. A gigantic leap. It's the difference between a person trying to strive to become spiritual versus an actual spiritual person. And pretty much 99.99% of the people are out there striving to become spiritual and not actually spiritual. Even if they're experts at talking about spirituality, it doesn't mean that they're actually the living truth. That's important to understand. So the teachings that are expressed through satsang are invisible. You can't see them. You can't smell them. You can't taste them. You can't touch them. You can't really find them. But it's like this energy that flows through your system, and it starts to, remember how we did the meditation at the beginning, and I said it's clearing out the nadis, or the energy channels. A lot of these energy channels are clogged, so they're dark. If you had spiritual vision, you could see a bunch of dark channels, and that means that the energy is not flowing through you, so you can't feel the presence in those particular channels. You will have some that are open and some are closed. The idea is to enlighten all of them, so you become a full embodiment of light, not just have one single strand of light in your being and say, I did it, and I'm in meditation, which often happens. And you know why? Because a lot of traditions focus on just one tradition. They're very narrow, and everyone's kind of on the same page, and they're all following to clear this one particular pathway so that they can experience enlightenment in that tradition. Now, the word purna means wholeness and completeness, meaning what I'm trying to express and so-called teach, we'll say share, is the fullness of the spiritual path, the completeness, meaning every spiritual path on the earth and in all other realms and all other dimensions, which is a gigantic path. You have to lay your whole life on the line. You have to surrender everything to the Lord, so to speak, in order to follow that path. Therefore, it hasn't been easy for me. I will be very truthful with you. I have struggled against my selfish tendencies. I used to be actually quite depressed, and I kept working on it, and by miracle, now I feel genuinely happy, and pretty much consistently all the time, and I can't stop smiling. And if you knew the old Brian, you'd be like, whoa, you taking some sort of drug? What you talk about with us? And that's a testament. So no wonder I'm here and I'm sharing. I've had such an amazing, if Brian is a completely different person now, how many people do you know have really transformed themselves seriously where they became a different person? Everyone pretty much stays the same throughout their life, has a similar personality, has similar issues, similar insecurities, similar depression, similar angers, whatever particular issue that you have, similar characteristics, you hold on to that. How do you break through those things? It's very simple. You do the opposite. So, opposite meaning, I gave you one example. Let me see if I can give you another example. I have had a hard time standing up to people when they trample over my boundaries. Some people might call that as a spiritual doormat. Like just saying, well, I'm too scared to talk to you about my boundary because you might yell at me, so I'm not going to say anything and I'm just going to let you do what you do. You often experience that if you have a roommate. If you don't have a roommate, then it's not such a big deal, boundaries, unless you have really close friends or stuff. But if someone lives with you and you have two different opinions about how the household should be run, if you're scared to tell the other person what you'd like to make your living there comfortable, then you can become a doormat where you're too afraid, you're caught in your fear. And I've been experiencing that for a long time. And you know where I developed that? This is a very sort of personal thing. But when I was really young, in my household, I had a lot of trouble standing up to my parents and just telling them like, oh gosh, I'm really uncomfortable with that, or that really hurt my feelings. I couldn't even speak to them. I was so afraid. And so then what do you think happened? In school, bullies, I started to attract bullies in school. And then they would run over pick on me, and because they smell a person who's insecure. Bullies know intuitively. They smell a person who they can pick on. They know who to attack. So bullies did that to me, and I couldn't stand up to them. I couldn't say anything to them. I was too scared. So I carried that pattern on and on and on. And the hardest thing is doing the opposite, saying something. And I've been practicing that even lately. And I'll tell you what happens, so maybe you can relate to this, is even just thinking about having the conversation, already I start to feel tense. Uh-oh. Are they going to be upset at me for telling them about this issue that I have? Because I'm not interested in offending them. I just want to be able to communicate without fear. That's all. Don't you think that's like little to ask? And yet, if my nervous system, is shutting me down and saying, no, you don't do it because you're afraid, then how am I free?
It's true.
How can I even love the person who I'm scared to even talk to? Because love doesn't exist with fear. Fear dominates and constricts your heart. But when you're free of fear, you can love even the people who don't like you, even the people who hate you or put you down. Your heart can still remain open. That's what I've been trying to work out for a long time. And so I've been getting little tests. So the beautiful thing about life is that you get the incidents that you need in order to grow out of that, to face your fears or whatever particular issue. You get those opportunities. If you look at them as opportunities, if you look at them as like blocks and like, God, why is that person in my life? This is unfair. They're treating me badly. Then you shut down your opportunity. Instead, you say, thank you for this gift before me, this intimidating person who I'm scared to speak to. Now let me go speak to them and let me speak through my fears. And each time I do that, bit by bit, I start to purify my nervous system. And it says to me, it's okay to speak your truth to another person, even if they get upset. And in fact, if they get upset, that's their issue. That's their own insecurity, not yours. So, do you see how, I can grow psychologically by facing and meeting my fears and moving forward? And as each fear gets unblocked or purified from my nervous system becomes more and more relaxed. And then when I sit down in meditation, I'm so concentrated because there's no fear in my system. And then when I'm meeting people who are, let's say, we'll call it type A personalities, which is the normal personality that I would get intimidated by, I can stand up with my head high and simply talk to them like a normal person with no fear and actually speak my truth. I would love to do that all the time. Even just meeting that one little goal would be a huge miracle for me, let alone the spiritual implications of the freedom of the energy flowing through my system now. That's just illuminating me and taking me to other realms of my being. So it starts with little acts of going against your ego and tendency, knowing that that's going to help me reach God. This little act right now, I'm giving to God. I'm doing this in honor of God because I want to be with God. I want to be with the Almighty, with the presence. I want to feel that every moment of my life. So this little act of standing before this intimidating person and just meeting them and telling the truth, this is for God. I'm doing it for him, her. See the context there? It's a bigger context. It's not just, I'm overcoming my fears. No, I want to reach you. I'm looking up at the light, it's like the light. I want to be with you. I don't want to be stuck in this pattern my whole life. I want to be with you. And each time I take the step, I feel more and more of the presence flowing within me. And then I think, thank God I could walk through my fears. Thank God I had the courage to do that. And that I had the context to do it. Because see how I'm creating a context here? This is so important. It's the most important mission of your life. This is not just some, I learned some sort of worldly skill, so now I'm more skilled in the world, so now people will pay me more or admire me more. Most of the world is about developing those skills so that you can live comfortably, so you can make a living and all that. Most of it's about worldly skills, but very few get taught the inner purification skills of working on where you're holding on to the world and to your selfishness and to, let's say, your depression or whatever. They don't teach you in school like in first grade or kindergarten, say, okay, kids, let's talk about your fears. Did you ever remember a class like that? I would be shocked if I came into a class and they were teaching something like that. I'd be shocked. And yet, it's crucial to make headway towards your beloved, to find your true self. So I say, I'm taking baby steps. And I said before, taking one step towards God, God takes 100 steps towards you. Meaning, like, in a way, the universe sees, oh, you know what? She's really trying. Like, I'm going to give her some help here. I'm going to actually help clear out her nervous system more than she knows. And so suddenly all these other fears are disappearing. You're not even doing anything. You know what I call that? The grace. The grace is the magic factor that comes to you and performs inner alchemy or inner miracles. I remember going to visit Swami Purna. I think he was like in Pennsylvania or something. We're having this retreat. And I was just noticing that I was having judgments towards all these people who were going up to get his blessing. Because there was a whole line of people and they'll get his blessing. Maybe they bow before him or whatever it is that people do to honor their teacher. And I found like, oh, that person's just pretending to be spiritual. Oh, and that person's like, oh, they're mean to me. And oh, that person, they ignore me. It's like I had a judgment towards pretty much everyone in that room. And so I was sitting there and I was like, oh, my mind was going, and suddenly it's like everything just stopped. And I felt this illumination in my heart, this warmth, a presence and a power just went, and it opened. And as I was watching each person go up to him, I was crying and feeling so much gratitude just to be with them. And all my judgments just falling away. And the love just beaming from my heart. And I was in tears because I said, how could this be happening? I had all these judgments towards these people. And now, like, I feel so much love for them. What happened? That was the inner miracle. You know how Jesus is known for doing so many miracles, like changing water into wine and healing crippled people and diseased people and all that stuff. You can experience inner miracles, inner changes, where some sort of fear or some sort of issue that you've experienced for years, suddenly gone like that, and you just don't know how it happens. That's the grace. That's the grace. And again, I call it magic. And I'm interested not in having a lot of material success. I'm interested in having such happiness inside that nothing in the entire universe can break that happiness ever again. And so I spend most of my time not doing physical pleasures like the regular person does, whether it's watching TV or you know what I mean, and I'm not even going to name off because I don't want to make anyone feel bad or guilty or something, because that's not the point. But in a way, it was a kind of renunciation practice of like, oh, instead of watching this TV program, I'm going to concentrate on my breathing practice. So one breathing practice that I do that is intense, but it is my honoring of God, is breathing up and down this center channel, which in Sanskrit they call it the Sushumna, which is you could call it your meditation channel. It's where the Kundalini, or the divine spark, rises up the spine and ultimately reaches the top of the head to unify with God. It's God consciousness at the top of the head, right? So one of my practices is breathing light up from the very bottom of the spine all the way to the top of the head, and then breathing it back down. And I'm clearing this channel, and I'm doing it for 15 minutes. It's not easy. I mean, if you breathe for 15 minutes, it's tough enough to get people to take 5 breaths. You know, already people are yawning and saying, okay, well, when's the breath going to be? When are we going to get to the fun part? You know, but I'm telling you, breath is crucial. Vital for purifying yourself. So 15 minutes, breathing up and down, clearing this channel, which gives room for that divine spark to rise up the spine to higher states of consciousness. And then each time the spark rises a little bit higher, I feel more illumined. And then ultimately, as I said, the ultimate goal, reaching the top, in a sense, you could just imagine visually, the top of the head opens and your consciousness spreads infinitely. And then you can say, I am. That's the I am. Another way to say it is I am everything, and I am everywhere, and I am all things at all time and all space and all dimensions, and there is nothing but me. That's another way to say this consciousness. It's the divine consciousness. So, but you have to do the work. You can't just say, well, I am. Say, okay, well, I guess I'm done. It's a good practice I did today. It's a really good practice, you know, I made some good progress. No, you have to take the step towards God, and then God will say, wow, he's really trying. I'm going to help. She's really trying. See, I would say the most admirable quality that a person has is sincerity in their spiritual path. They just sincerely want to know the truth. It's almost like this innocent. I've lived so many lifetimes and experienced everything already. I want to know more than just this material existence that I've been living my whole life. My friends and family really are not that interested in following what I'm doing. But I want to know. I don't care if the entire world doesn't want to know. I want to know. And so every day I'm seeking, I'm exploring myself. I'm wondering, well, what if this is all God? What if, in a way, my mind has been mistaken all along in thinking that I'm in this body on earth, walking around and having a good time? What if there actually is only one being? And it's the thing even that's running this mind and running this body and making the heartbeat, and everyone else. And so, in a way, everyone else is deluded into thinking that they're all separate from this. And maybe this is actually, and I'm going to put this in other words, maybe this is just a dream in God's mind. Because it's a very good way to put it, right? When you sleep and you dream of all the characters at night, they're all you in your dream at night. They're not some other people. They're all you, your mind. is creating the whole dream. What if the divine could do the same thing and make you completely believe that you're separate and you're in charge of your life? What if that was possible? Oh my God. That's utterly shocking. Because, again, everyone thinks, I'm in here and you're in here. That's how we treat each other. That's the consciousness. So one way to say this is, it's kind of tough to become enlightened in this world because the majority of the population believes in separation consciousness. It's kind of tough. And that consciousness gets into the atmosphere, to call it collective consciousness. And so everyone gets influenced by the drama and the belief in separation. So, the solution is, the antidote is you sit with someone, we were talking about this, you sit with a Christ and you absorb the vibration and you let that rub off on you and transform all your egoic tendencies and feelings of separation so that ultimately you merge with the one. And that's what we're doing now. Yeah. Yes. It's important to understand that context, and that's why I oftentimes go back to, don't try to get more information from this. Try to feel the depths of your being. What are you and who are you? Where are you? Are you even here? And these kind of gatherings have been my priority for the past 15, 16 years, as I kind of said before, being a saint chaser. It's a funny name to give, but a saint chaser, meaning let me find the saints who I kind of feel are highly illumined beings that recognize God consciousness. And let me go be with them and get their advice and connect with them. And so I have spent many resources and much time and effort on that path. And I'm telling you, every single second of it has been worth it. Every second. Like here and now, every second is just precious because I have a chance. Like I want to be in the atmosphere because it's hard being out there in the world on a regular basis and being bombarded by separation consciousness. It just is. I'm just being honest. I'm not pretending that it's all easy. Because if everyone was enlightened, yeah. But what the thing is there was a golden age, long time ago. One could say, let's say, about 500,000 years ago, on Earth, a golden age where 99% of the people were enlightened. 99%. It's just that time and age is not in our historical timeline. We haven't recorded it. Just because it hasn't been recorded on history doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's good to understand that, right? So there was a golden age in which most people were enlightened, and those people who were striving for higher states of consciousness during that time, they had to sit in meditation for hundreds of years in order to get somewhere. Why? Because there were no challenges in that world to put them into situations where they could actually see their hidden karmas, their hidden issues. We are very fortunate to be in this world because we have button pushers all around us who are showing us where our weakness is. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. If everything is easy and you've surrounded yourself by people who are pleasing you and making your life easy, how are you going to get anywhere? You have to have your so-called enemies who are going to push your buttons so you can see where you're reacting and how you can purify that reaction. So the next time the bully comes, you don't have any reaction, you don't have any fear. You stand up to the bully, they could punch you in the face, knock you out, you go bleeding on the ground, and you just, thank you, God. So be it. I mean, you could fight back, obviously, but I mean, if they're stronger and they beat you up, at least you stood up for your fear. Yeah. It's not standing up to the bully. It's standing up to your fear. Bully's not the problem. Another way of saying this is symbolic, metaphorical. You're not battling other people in this world. There's no one who you're competing or battling against. The battle is all within. Therefore, you have no one to blame for your problem. The landlord kicks you out of your house. You don't blame the landlord. You look at your reaction and see, oh, look at all the fears around. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I don't have enough friends. Oh, I don't have any shelter. Oh, look at all the fears and all the lack. All the lack and fears that come up, that's where your battle is, not the landlord. The landlord is just helping you to see where your insecurity is about not having a home or not having any money. And one of the greatest gifts is to be kicked out of your apartment, having no house, and then losing all your money, and then being able to say, thank you. Thank you. I accept. Whatever situation I am in, I accept. Even more powerful, the doctor diagnoses you with cancer. Thank you for your information. Thank you, God. What am I to learn from this? Help me to learn everything I can. This must be a powerful lesson where I can purify everything, including the very belief that I am the body itself. Because if you're afraid of dying cancer, you believe you're a body. You believe you're here, in a body, in a room somewhere on earth. And so you still have a lot of work to do. The person who gets cancer diagnosis and accepts fully and completely, so be it, I'm okay. Let me move forward and make the best of my path in this life as I have been given. I'm grateful for this life. Thank you, God. No ounce of fear whatsoever. Wouldn't you like to be in that state?
Yeah.
Because it isn't the cancer. It's the fear of what might happen if I get sick. You know, a big problem, the problem isn't the virus, the pandemic. It's the fear of the virus that causes people to get sick and susceptible to a virus. Once you have secured your emotional immune system, you don't get a virus. You're not affected by viruses because your inner immunity is so strong. Fear is what takes away from your immunity. So when you have spiritual immunity, spiritual presence, no virus, you're good. You're starting to see the power of what I'm talking about, right? Like, and why I'm sharing these classes, whatever you call it.
Is that like vibrating higher, so high? Your energy vibration is so high that it can't be touched by?
Yeah. Yeah. Fear is what makes your immune system go down, and it hurts your body and causes you to get the diseases that you get. No fear, no disease, no sickness, no virus. You are immune. You are unaffected. You are free of the tragedies of the world. Why is that helpful? Then you can actually help other people. Otherwise, you're in your house crouched down and afraid of that the virus or other people might get me. How are you ever going to be in service of the divine if you're caught in your fears? Living a small life. So I'm going to chant with you a mantra. And this mantra is particularly a calling of the soul. In Sanskrit, they name the soul as Atma. Have you heard of that? Yeah, the Atma. The Atma is that pure, still space of your being that can't be seen or can't be touched, can't be smelled, can't be tasted. It's the pureness of your being. You may not necessarily feel it, because if you were in that state, you'd be unaffected by all of your emotions and everything. You'd be beyond all that. So this has helped to make it, in a sense, come more to the surface of your conscious mind. So you're directly feeling it, as opposed to just saying, well, yeah, it's there. And yeah, I already know that, so why should I even do this? You see what I mean? Why should I even do this? A lot of people might say that. Why should I come to a gathering and purify myself? I have a soul, so I'm fine. I'm infinite. I'm pure. What's your direct experience of life? Is it that? Or are you really caught in your mind and your emotions and ruled by that? So this is to awaken the soul. The mantra is, I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. It's pretty easy. And it's fun. You can sing it with me as you get it. I am Atma Brahma. And then it repeats like that. I am Atma Brahma. And then the second verse. I am Atma Brahma. And then you say, I am Atma Brahma. And then I say, I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. I am deep breaths, breathing in the energy of that mantra into our body, into our mind, and into our soul. Just imagine a crystal clear river flowing through your heart space. And floating on that river at the center of your heart is a white lotus flower. And in the distance, there are towering trees. And the first light of dawn streams over the tops of the trees to strike that lotus flower at the center of your heart. And that white lotus flower opens to receive the light. And it blooms. More and more light pouring into the flower at the center of your heart. And that flower begins to shine. And the light spreads through your whole chest. And all the way up into your head, into your shoulders and arms. Through your whole torso. The light spreads all the way down to your feet. Until every single cell of your body is illuminated by the light. And then it fills your aura. and then letting go of the image. Just feel yourself merge into the energy. Let your whole being become absorbed into that presence. Letting go of all your experiences of this life and diving into the ocean of presence. Where nothing is left. Very gently bringing your attention to the body in the room. You can open your eyes. If you can do this enough, at some point you'll pretty much lose your body. Not in the sense that it will die, but you won't have any more attention on your body or your mind as you. And so you'll just be sort of dispersed, almost like you're not really there. It's like kind of like a ghost in a way, where if someone looked at you, they couldn't really be sure whether there was anyone inside the body or not. That would be a very highly illumined state. That's why this would probably be a better picture, when I speak about Swami Purna and I show his picture like this, he lived in the Himalayas for decades and a very amazing yogi. So I would say, okay, this is his picture, but actually this is more accurate. In other words, there's no one in there, so when you sit in his presence, since there's no one in there, the person who you think is inside you also dissolves, and it just becomes pure presence. Do you get what I'm saying? That's a process, and so I've tried to spend as much time as I can with him because I can feel huge amounts of my personal karma and my personal ideas of me disappear, just being with him. And so, and then while I'm not connecting with him, then I'm actually still connecting with him, because I also will listen to his lectures, or I'll ponder his words. And every time you think about a saint, you're connecting to that saint. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned that to you, right? If you can be around with Jesus all the time, just think about Jesus and he's there with you. You can meditate upon Jesus even better, visualize him. But you have to keep your mind on the saint, and the more, whatever you meditate on is what you become. That's a simple principle. Whatever you think about is what you become. So if you hang out a lot with people who are dishonest, their dishonesty will rub off on you. If you hang out with a depressed person, that'll rub off on you. So in a way, you kind of have to be a little bit careful about who your associates are, because those people will influence you. And that's why I have a tendency to spend most of my time with saints. That's just what I do. And it really helps to keep the consciousness uplifted and so-called expanding, and more and more expanding. And then, even then, when I go out into the world, I'm, as I was saying, kind of more immune to the negativity that people have, or the separative consciousness that people have. I'm less vulnerable to that. Whereas I think before, years ago, having not done a lot of work, I'd be way more susceptible to people's moods, people's opinions, people's actions, people's energy. I'd be way more affected by the world. So sometimes it's helpful, at least at the beginning, to kind of not hang out too much with negative people if you can, and really work on yourself first, and then test yourself and see if you can go into that environment and if you can handle it. It's kind of like when you're in a cocoon. You have to kind of like cocoon yourself first and give yourself the space to grow, and then ultimately you turn into a butterfly. Then you're flying. Then no one on the ground can touch you because you're flying. Woohoo! Butterfly. It's kind of like that. Yeah, that's the idea.
I've gone through multiple chrysalises.
Yeah, multiple chrysalises. Yeah. So that's kind of a symbol of the spiritual path. So I was going to chant one more mantra with you together, but before I kind of conclude with the gathering, I wanted to ask if anyone had any specific questions for me, or thoughts that have come to you while you've been here. Any ideas? Anyone would like to share anything?
I don't really have a question. I just, your description of floating or feeling lighter, that's the way I felt when I was singing this time, because I don't, and I'm sure it's because your presence and all of the information is just, it resonates so easily with me.
Yeah.
That was so, I don't know, it's just, I've never had that experience before.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of pretty amazing experiences, but
Let's be clear, an empath. You're like feeling, he's feeling.
The more you really believe, the more you're really open, the bigger the impact the energy will have on you, and the higher you'll go. That's how it works. Some people come into these gatherings and they're very sort of like, well, you know, I don't know about this. If you come in and you're really skeptical, you're probably not going to get the real teachings of the gathering. If you're trying to take my words and pick them apart and say, well, I'm not sure if I quite agree with that. I don't know if I would say it that way. You know, like wordsmiths, people who like to hear things the way they like to hear them. you're not going to get much out of it. And I've had that before, where some people, actually quite spiritual people, but they don't quite like the words that I'm using. They say, well, I can't really support you because I don't really believe what you just said. And then I say, okay. Even though they were saying, gosh, I feel so much love and light more than I ever have before. They're saying, but I don't quite agree with your philosophy.
I'm experiencing that push and pull personally.
Yeah.
And during the last meditation, I was just like, well, you're here, so just let yourself feel it. But I definitely have a push and pull.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
protects me from people who are lying.
Yeah. And it's not just you too. Everyone has that.
Yeah.
Even though people may not admit, say, oh, I'm totally open, they're not.
Right. Well, I'm trying to be.
Yeah. And I can tell with people. I can tell. But it's okay with me. Like, I'd rather you just be yourself. And like, I'm not saying, in other words, I'd rather you not pretend. Just be yourself. And if you disagree, and even if you weren't interested at all, I wouldn't even be offended if you left either. And I'm not saying that you should.
No.
I'm just saying that it's okay with me whether you believe or not believe some of the words I'm saying, or because I don't want anyone to take my words for face value. I would, again, I'd rather you suspend your rational thought, suspend your intelligence. I mean, it sounds crazy, but suspend your intelligence and just feel. And just say, I'm bound to disagree. My intelligence and mind rational thought is bound to disagree with some of the things that he's saying. But that's not what I came here for. I wanted to experience a feeling inside me of like, wow, my heart is alive. Like, I feel alive. Not just, oh, I agree and I disagree, so that's cool. Because I can go to school for that and go to a class, you know what I mean? I can go to a class, online class, and go Spirituality 101, teach me how to learn about God or something like that. And I read all that and say, okay, this is how God is, and he's infinite and omnipotent and all that, and get all that information, and yet have a totally flat experience and be still dead inside. So I'm trying to make the dead parts come alive inside my own system. I'm not even talking about you. I'm talking about even those parts that are still asleep and frustrated and not happy. I'm trying to bring the light to those spaces so that they can feel the energy and actually feel happy again. So, the real teaching is, let's get all my being on board with this sense of happiness, so that ultimately it never goes away. It never shuts down, no matter how hard or life gets. That happiness is awakened, because happiness is not a condition of your life where I made my life just perfect so that I've got the perfect house and perfect family, so now I'm happy. Because that stuff is guaranteed to go. Your family is going to die at some point. Your house is going to collapse at one point. Earth is going to be destroyed. I mean, everything's going to go at some point. But this space, which I would call, in a way, the soul, that never dies. That's eternal. But if you haven't captured that, if you haven't touched that, then you're relying on a very unsteady foundation that's giving you happiness. That's very unstable, because it could go at any point. We can have another world war, and the whole environment could be polluted with nuclear pollution, and you could be depressed inside. Whereas the person who's in tune with their soul, they go into their bomb shelter, and they are so happy, more happy than they have ever been. And they may even be alone, but they're in the bliss of their own soul, which is good enough. And that is hard to believe for a normal person. If they haven't truly experienced that, that's going to sound nuts. But the sage or the saint who is in communion with that part of their being, they're never going back to the human mind. don't take me back there. I'm not interested in that mind. That's a dangerous place to go. Belief in body and mind is me? Oh, that's, let me just be in communion with my soul all the time. And sometimes maybe the saint wishes that they could just give the experience to you directly so you could feel it. So you go, I got it. Wow, no wonder he drives all over the entire world to try to share this. No wonder he's given up his normal worldly pleasure. I used to eat pizza every Friday night. Best food, right? I gave up pizza. I'm kind of joking about that. But, I'm giving an example of my favorite desires that I said, no, God is more important than this. So let me focus on that. And I give that up. I don't need it. Let me focus my mind on the presence instead of indulging in my pizza. And I'm giving a very gross example, but you can use that with any little thing that you do during life. How often are you really attuning to the energy?
Always being distracted. Always hiding from it.
Uh-huh.
Always.
Yeah. And you know why? Because we don't want to be with ourselves. It's too uncomfortable even to be with our own mind. Let me turn on the TV. I'd rather watch someone else's life, not mine. My life, oh God, so uncomfortable. I'd rather watch the news and see all the drama out there because that's more exciting. Then my mind gets entertained, and then it gets caught in the consciousness of the news, and then you lose your presence. You lose your presence. You lose your inner joy. And then you start needing other people and other things to give you juice to make you happy. That's not independence. That's you're relying on others for the outside world for happiness. That's miserable. As I said, all this is going to end at some point, but this is eternal. Look for the eternal truth. I sound like a preacher. Look for the eternal truth. This is the reason of getting a human body, to find that. All the other animals are on the gross level of sex, fear, food, sleep. 4 things animals chase after. Human beings, usually the same thing. But if they can raise their consciousness a little bit higher, they can experience something more profound. You have a doorway right now. Walk through it and meet your Creator.
This is a perfect balance for me, because I love the truth that we teach her, the oneness, unity, source expressing itself through each and every one of us, all the different ways that it does. But the foundation is the purity in the heart. This type of mantras and meditations can guide us to that pure heart that already resides within.
Yeah.
But like you say, we got to do the work.
Yeah.
We got to be willing to see what's coming up and ask why it's coming up and put it in perspective, put it where it belongs. Once we do that, it's automatically released. And then because of that release and the seeking of truth and understanding oneself, like you say, you take that one step, source gives you 100 more steps, so that emptiness that's released now gets replaced with experiences and enlightenment, and it's a beautiful thing. And then, like you say, you become it. You end up becoming it instead of just saying it or just memorizing it or mimicking it because you learned it through a class. Or it becomes we're human beings, so it becomes a part of our being. It's not something we're doing, so we don't get to put it down for a minute and pick it back up. It's always there, because it's how we think and feel and is and see everything from this spiritual perspective, this higher consciousness. So that's when it can start going out towards others, because we can't give what we don't have. So if we don't find it within, we can't give it to others. Now we can pretend, but as soon as they piss us off, we're gonna take it back. But when it's naturally there, when you found it from going within and doing what needs to be done to connect to that light, that sound, that source, that's I'm telling you, it takes you somewhere. It's a beautiful consciousness to be. You live in 2 worlds at the same time, but it's the balance is, you learn how to balance it, and it's beautiful and it's loving, and like you say, you can be cruel and mean And if you're in a human body, you're gonna experience the emotions that comes with that. I can get offended, I just don't stay offended. You know, I can get hurt, I just don't stay hurt. I can get afraid of something, but I don't wanna live in that fear. So, going within helps me understand it for what it is, put it in perspective, thank God for it, because it's a part of my journey if I'm experiencing it. What can I learn from, and just go with the flow of it. I'm rambling, but.
Well, I'll say something to that also. And so I'm so grateful for your deep engagement in this. Like, that really means a lot. Like, and just for showing up, even is like, to me, it's a great gift. And so I wanted to express my gratitude for your coming and even supporting. Like, you know, she just made the mailing list for me and just started passing it around, which is so sweet. Like, just like those things, little things, it just shows me that this work is appreciated.
Absolutely, and needed.
Yeah.
And needed,
It's a
yeah. And
necessity.
and I love to see that. So I appreciate all of you coming and supporting
And
this
Brian,
little gathering too.
we get blessed by your spiritual gift of you just being you, because you did the work to become who you are today so that you can be of service to humanity.
Yeah.
So any gathering you go to, any place you go, that presence is with you, and then when you speak on it and elaborate and help people understand it, that plants seeds. And so that love, that agape spirit just keep flowing and flowing. And so just by you being you, you don't have to do nothing spectacular or
Yeah.
jump through hoops. Or the simplicity but profound.
Trust me, I
is-
haven't planned anything for this.
Well, yeah,
That's the
what
best
spirit
part.
just, yeah.
That's what's
So
great.
that's the energy that's flowing with it, and that's why it
Yeah.
can connect.
Yeah.
Because it's not programmed or anything.
I always thought, like, I was not
Beautiful.
interested in planning anything because I always felt like in a way, spirit
Yeah.
was going to be more knowledgeable and more expressive than I would be. So I'll just let whatever that wants to express, let that come through. In a way, it's a kind of surrender and a letting go,
Absolutely.
because Brian doesn't want to get involved in the planning of this. It's
Absolutely.
too much work.
But you know how free you have to be
And it just gets in the
to
way.
allow that free of even your ego, to allow spirit to just flow through and let it say what it needs to say, connect what it needs to connect to, however it needs to
Yeah.
connect, collectively as well as individually. That's how unlimited and powerful spirit is. But to be such a beautiful,
Yeah.
humble vessel, to allow spirit to just do that because you did the work, and to get to the point where it can flow through it. Your heart is pure.
Yeah.
So the energy that flows through that, we get to feel and see and hear and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just being you.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
the best part of it.
Thank
Oh
you.
God, I love it. It's beautiful. I was blessed.
Yes.
You spoke a little, if I could speak just a little bit more, you mentioned something about once you get in a state of kind of, not so much purification, but,
Yeah.
and then you go into meditation, it's just like, it's like very sharp and very
Right.
deep.
Yes.
Can you speak more to that? 'Cause
Yes.
I meditate daily, but like.
Yeah. You can do the practice that I do, which is the
like,
15-minute
what
breath.
do you do to prepare your, is that something that you do? to
Yes.
Prepare yourself before meditating?
Yes, yes, I do. So the 15 minutes of just breathing up and down this Sushumna, or this center channel, clears out the blocks so that you can sit in meditation. And even if you just sit for 5 minutes afterwards and try to feel the change, it's good enough. But the breathing particularly is going to help you to feel more and more concentrated each time. Just say, I want to clear this center channel of all blocks so that the divine energy can rise. That's the idea. And then you just do the breath up and down, and you imagine like light going down, and that's how you achieve what you were speaking of. Just do it consistently, though, as much as you can. I usually do it in the morning, pretty much the first thing, and it helps. It's just a helpful thing. So that's a practical answer to your question.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm very high energy,
Uh-huh.
and I've only a few times felt this peaceful and calm, and still all that energy is
Yeah, yeah. Do you see what I mean? How you can be very peaceful, and yet you can also be very energetic
Oh,
behind it all.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, and that I rarely
I kind
have
of feel that too.
Yeah.
Just like,
It's cool, isn't it?
just like,
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
my back pain is gone.
Oh, great. Great. Okay, so I'm going to chant actually the final mantras just to conclude this. These mantras are in honor of my teacher, Swami Purna. So you don't have to chant them, just allow the energy to sort of wash over you. Placing our hands in prayer position in front of our heart, we'll chant together the mantra Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, sending peace to all beings in this world. Peace be unto all.